All right, we're going to get started with our post-race media availabilities for today's Fitzgerald Glider Kids 300. We are going to be joined by our Dash for Cash contenders for next week in Richmond. We're joined first by Elliott Sadler, driver of the number 1, Armour Chili Chevrolet, who finished 4th today. Elliott, why don't you just take us through your race there and the excitement of getting to race for $100,000 next week?
First of all, I want to say it's good to be back in the media center for the second week in a row. So I feel very special about that. Man, we had some adversity today. I think we had 3 different wrecks and lap down and a flat tire and all those things. And be able to battle back for a top 5 was pretty good. My car took a little while to get going. Wasn't good for 10 or 12 laps, but man, we were by far the fastest car on long runs, and definitely a lot of fun to run a lot of those guys down. So just proud of my team to put us in this position. It's fun going to Richmond, my home track, for the Dash for Cash. And, looking forward to see what we have there next weekend.
And now we're also joined by Daniel Hemric, driver of the number 21 South Point Hotel and Casino Chevrolet, who finished 3rd today and will also be contending for the Dash for Cash in Richmond next week. Daniel, why don't you just take us through your race and racing for $100,000 again next week?
Yeah, first off, it's definitely special to even have the opportunity to run for the Dash for Cash. So thanks to Comcast and Xfinity for giving that opportunity. And I thought we were in good shape, taking off early in the race. With the Cup guys, it seemed like when we went green, like the bottom had kind of given up a little bit of overall buildup, which kind of helped our car taking off. And the short run speed was good. And I could feel my car fading probably 12 to 15 laps to a run and kind of building towards a little bit of the unpredictable side, kind of landing tight, snap-free exit. But the cautions were bailing us out early in the race and allowed us to cool everything down and take back off again. And that was kind of our saving grace there through the first stage, through the second stage. I may have got a little behind on asking for what I needed out of our South Point Hotel Casino Chevrolet, but Danny stopping the guys, did all they could all day. I tried to do all I could to keep track position and put ourselves in position, and luckily that last caution came out and allowed us to come get 4 tires and regroup and use what our strong suit was all weekend, and that was taking off on a short run. So proud of our effort. As a company last year, we couldn't take off on restarts and make that speed early, and now we're doing it. We just got to figure out how to get back on the other side to keep that speed going, but proud of the effort and look forward to running for another $100,000 next week.
All right, great. We will open up to questions for Elliott and Daniel. Please raise your hand. We'll get a wireless mic to you. Go to Bob up front.
Bob Pockrish, CSPN. Elliott, what was the beef with John Hunter? And then does the dynamic of this race change without the Cup guys in it?
I thought it was a great race. I mean, there's a lot of battling going on, I think, from front to back. And, I mean, it's definitely a little bit different maybe when Kyle Busch is not in a race here at Bristol. I think everybody has a different sense of opportunity, to put themselves in position to win, or Logano or the 22 or whoever. So I think definitely drivers look at it from a different way. The beef with Hemric, he just run over the back of us, and he drives like that in the Truck Series, and that's cool. I don't run the Truck Series, but don't come up here and drive like that in the Xfinity Series. It's we kind of fight back a little bit. So my beef with him was just quit driving off your hood and start looking ahead and use your head a little bit. But I know he's young; he's just starting, so I got to understand that too. But in the heat of the moment, when I'm trying to get myself in position to go for $100,000, and it's Bristol. You don't always, keep your temper at a regular level like you should.
All right, we're going to go upstairs to the press box to Lee.
Welcome back to the media center, Elliott. Hello.
Try again, Lee.
Elliott.
Yes. Yes, I hear
Welcome
you.
Welcome back to the media center.
I hear
Super. Being a veteran, did it help you acclimate to the track and how it changed over the course of the race?
Yeah, yesterday at the end of practice, I kind of used some experience on how the old track kind of drove, and that's the way I drove the track all day today. It kind of reminded me of the old Bristol, where if you could get your car to hook around the bottom and have good forward bite off, then you were going to be pretty fast. So I'm kind of glad the groove didn't move up. It kind of reminded me of the old Bristol. You got to run on somebody off the corner, or if you got into them a little hard in 3, you can move them up and go around them on the bottom. But I thought it created some great racing. I'd love to see the track put the stuff back down again tonight to give the Cup car some opportunity for that. Of course, I think they'll go to the top more just because they're lacking downforce, heavier car, going in the corners faster. But I think they need to have that opportunity for tomorrow as well. It created another lane that we usually don't have towards the end of the race. And I think that's why you saw such a good race today, is the opportunity that the bottom presented itself.
Okay, well, we're also joined by Justin Allgaier, driver of the number 7 Suave Men Chevrolet, and Spencer Gallagher, driver of the number 23 Allegiant Chevrolet, who are the other 2 drivers running for Dash for Cash next week at Richmond. Gentlemen, can each of us just take us through your race quickly and the opportunity to run for that $100,000 next week?
Yeah, obviously, first of all, it's a huge deal to be able to go for the Dash for Cash next week. So, hats off to Xfinity and Comcast for all they do for this sport. It was disheartening to come into this weekend and not be a part of it. So to be able to lock our way in next week is always good. Long day today. We had a really, really fast 12-man Chevy. Really proud of everybody at G Motorsports. Obviously, everybody's been working really, really hard. And I tried to give it away a couple of times. I owe Matt an apology. I got a good run off the corner there and got inside of him. And just the lane he was running, I ended up clipping the apron. And at that point, it just shot me up into him. And that kind of started it. And then from there, it seemed like just trying to get back to the field was insane. We spun out, got the inside wall, and that took the splitter off mostly on the left front. So, for us trying to get to the end there, I felt like we had a better car than second, maybe even if the splitter would have been on there. But, I made the mistake, and unfortunately it cost us to be up there in victory lane. But hats off to Ryan and their team. They did a great job.
And Spencer?
Oh, man alive. That was a brawl today. If y'all were watching that, you got your money's worth as far as I'm concerned. It was a really good day for us at GMS Racing. Our Allegiant Travel Chevy had good speed off the truck, and I think we put a great day together. It's an honor to be going into the first Dash for Cash race for GMS Racing and getting to wear that red splitter and that red blade. That's a big deal to me. The $100,000 is great, but I'm already clicking my heels just to be in the show and be talked about in that respect. So it was a fantastic day for us at GMS. This hasn't been my strongest track historically, so I'm so proud of the work that these guys put into this race car, and I'm so proud of the effort that they made.
All right, we're going to go back upstairs to the press box for a question from Chris.
Yeah, Chris Knight, catchfence.com. Sorry, there's an echo. Spencer, top 5 finish today, career best finish. What has been the light underneath the for you guys in 2018?
Yeah, no, that's it right there. Man, I wish I could point to any one thing and tell you that's been the thing that's sent us over the edge. But really, it's been experience. It's been getting Mr. Chad Norris on. He's been an incredible help on the pit box and putting these things together. It's getting to come back to these places for my second year in Xfinity and having that much more confidence in running with talents like this. I wish I could point to my finger to one single thing, but really it's just the combined efforts of all of GMS Racing that they're putting in. My heart goes out to them. I'm so freaking proud of these guys today.
We're going to go to Jacob on the far right.
Jacob Seelman with Speed Sport. Justin, for you at the tail end of that race, over here, all the way. For you at the tail end of that race, you were chasing Ryan, and the track evolved so much over the course of this day. With the way your car was running and how you had to rebound, was there anything else you could have done at the end?
No, unfortunately, trying to get back to traffic, I ran the top a lot. Unfortunately, just on newer tires, especially after that last caution, I knew the battles. I mean, a couple of times I'd gone up there early, and I think we lost like 9 spots on one of them whenever I went up there. So there really was no reason to go up there and try it. I was trying to run them down the best I could. We were just way too tight with the splitter being gone, and unfortunately, I tried everything I could do in the car, but the bottom lane at that point was just too fast. Larson can't be mad at me because I did everything I could to try to get the top all cleared off for him. It was it wasn't pretty a couple of times, but it just one of those days that we just got outrun on that last restart.
We'll go here to Matt in the middle.
Matt Weaver, Auto Week. Speaking of Larson, he was somewhat critical of this race today, and there was a lot of positivity about this race. But he said that he wanted to know what people are thinking of the bottom groove racing. He said the only thing that's made it somewhat interesting is that the Xfinity guys are crashing it up in the first half. But I guess this is what fans want. So I'm just curious, from your perspective, why is there sometimes a disconnect between sometimes drivers, what they think a race is interesting, and maybe what the fans think?
I thought the racing today was great. There was a lot of passing. There was a lot of action. At the end of the day, I think, isn't that what fans want to see? Maybe Larson don't like it because he likes to run the top. So he's trying to get an advantage for tomorrow. He doesn't want NASCAR to put some more stuff down back on it. I mean, that's the card I'd be playing if I was him.
Kyle Larson doesn't like a bottom feeding race, more at 11.
So, I mean, my opinion is that if it was a good race today and the fans enjoyed it, it looked to me it was a lot of passing going on, a lot of close racing, beating and banging, slide slapping, and all that stuff. That why wouldn't you think that was good for the sport or good for this track?
You know, I will say that, like, for me, you know, I typically would say that my favorite lane here is the middle. And a couple of years ago when we changed the top and we did the PAJ one on the bottom, it's completely taken the middle away from me. And it's hard because, you know, you get used to something or accustomed to something. And I was fortunate enough to win here in the middle. And so I just always felt like that was the lane I wanted to run. And when that becomes kind of the lane you can't run, it gets frustrating, right? And it's hard to evolve. It's hard to change. I've spent the last 10 years trying to figure out how to change my driving style to be able to run on the bottom or the top or whatever it is. And I think sometimes when you're a top guy, which we all know Kyle is, you know, it's hard to want to try to run the bottom when you know you're so good on the top. And truth be told, if it goes to the fence tomorrow, my money's on the 42, plain and simple. If it stays on the bottom, I don't know who the right guy is. Maybe Harvick. Some of the guys that are really patient around the bottom. So I think it definitely changes the outcome of the race of you know what lane you're in tomorrow.
Any additional questions for Dash for Cash? Okay, we'll go to Kenny and then over to Jacob again.
Kenny Bruce with KennyBruce.net. For each of you guys, any concern whatsoever that a guy that doesn't run full-time in the series wins the bonus?
No.
No, not at all.
Wouldn't
I think,
think so.
talking Preece, indirectly, like that guy drove his tail off, put himself in position, and stepped up when he had to. So I promise you, if any of us were in that same position where we had a couple races, we'd hope we had the same option. So hats off to those guys for being the best today.
Yeah, I think from my standpoint, I mean, he did everything he needed to do. He qualified in last week. He drove his tail off, as Daniel said today. He won the race. Like, I mean, you can't do any more than what he did today, right? I mean, he was involved in one of the wrecks. He went on to end up going on to win the race. I mean, you know, he did what he needed to do, and ultimately, that kid works as hard or harder than anybody in the garage area. You know, he's up setting modifieds up. He's racing his own stuff, winning races up in the Northeast and all over the country in modifieds, and has a cool opportunity to come here and do this, and he's making the most of it. And you know what? That goes a long way.
It's the American dream.
If you qualify in the show, if you meet the criterion, if you beat out 39 other dudes whose job it is to do this full time at a place like Bristol, congratulations, you deserve it. And that's it.
Go back to Jacob.
Jacob Seelman, Speed Sport again. Elliott, I want to follow up with you because I think you may have had the most eventful day out of everybody and still come back to a good finish. Was it as crazy as it looked out there all day?
I mean, it reminded me a lot of the old Bristol guys, and I know I've said that before, whereas you kind of had to move some guys or some guys will move you, good close quarter racing. The track changed a lot. We had a lot of fall off. So that means you had a lot of cars coming and going, which created really good races and throughout the whole field, not only for the lead. So to me, it was eventful for us, but I thought it was a great, entertaining race from where I was all day. It seemed to be a lot of people could move and pass on the bottom and go. When this place gets around the top, it's just follow the leader. You know, you can't try to pass the guy in front of you unless you know you can clear him or they're going to trap you from behind. And none of that was in play today. If you caught a guy and thought you could pass him, you get a good run off the corner, you could pass him. It wasn't a cat and mouse game. Today was a better race in my eyes, and I've been doing this for a while, a better race in my eyes at Bristol than we've had in a long time, in my opinion.
So you'd say you're happy that the old Bristol's back a little bit?
Yeah, of course. It's more action today. Yeah, you're going to tear up more stuff. The tippers were flaring more, which that's the old Bristol. You can move some people today a little bit and get under them, and if you got a nose under them, you could pass them. I mean, I didn't see, I have to maybe go back and watch the race tomorrow on TV, but from where I saw, if you could get some good runs and the guys in front of you had some fall off, you could pass them. Before, you could catch a guy. If he ran around the top and didn't want you to pass him, you couldn't pass him. It's just the way this track was. I really enjoyed racing today, even though it was one of those days. It was fun to race the way today's track and kind of what it gave us.
All right, any final questions for our panel? All right, gentlemen, good luck next week in Richmond.
Thanks, y'all.
All right, we are going to wrap up our post-race media availabilities for today's Fitzgerald Glider Kits 300. We are joined by our race winner, Ryan Preece, driver of the number 18 Rheem Toyota, and his crew chief, Eric Phillips. Ryan is also the winner of the Dash for Cash bonus, the $100,000. Ryan, how does that feel?
Really good. I don't think you can say winning $100,000 isn't good, but I know what it's going to do for me with my life, and I can officially say I'm going to be paid off with everything that I risked last year. And this is a big day for me. But one thing I want to point out to everybody right here, this guy right here gave me a real great set of match tires there at the end, and they came through for me.
Eric, why don't you talk about the end of the race there, especially those last couple pit stops?
I mean, it's just patience here. I kind of preached to Ryan all weekend, kind of leading up here. The racetrack changes so much from when we unload on Friday morning as the rubber changes, and then with obviously that PJ1 that they put down, this racetrack changes constantly. So it's just managing your car. Obviously the bottom was the preferred groove this weekend. We hadn't seen that in a long time here. So a lot of cautions, just taking care of that car. So, you know, I told him we weren't racing anybody until 170. I didn't want to go, you know, other than just take what the racetrack give us. If somebody got on us, let them go this race. And then I knew if we were there at the end with 50 to go, or a caution come out at the end, that we had a shot. And he did an awesome job on the restart. My guys on pit road did an awesome job. They had a rough couple weeks here, and they stepped up today when it counted.
All right, we're going to open up to questions. We'll actually start upstairs with Jerry Jordan, and then we'll go over to the right side of the room.
Ryan, Jerry Jordan, kicking some PRN. You're not eligible for next week. Does that sting a little bit that you're not? That someone seemed like maybe dropped the ball on that, or because that's $100,000 you might have been able to win additionally?
Well, I won $100,000 today, so I don't think it stings at all. I understand what you're asking, but I think anybody who knows my career and what I've done, any day that I'm sitting in a race car that I feel I can win in this garage is a good day for me. So I'm just going to keep showing up, doing what I intend on doing, and that's, like I said to Eric, going out and winning. I am mentally ready for this, and I think Eric probably sees that. I'm a little high-strung sometimes, and I'm working on calming down for him, but when it comes to restarts, when it comes to those pressure situations, I feel I'm ready, and so I'm just going to focus on my next race. The way I look at it, I got 2 months to prepare myself for Daytona, which is my next one, which is that's a game of chess, and it's kind of like our New Hampshire. So yeah, that's all when it comes to that.
We're going to go over to Jacob and then Dominic.
Jacob Seelman, Speed Sport. Ryan, you actually hit on the first thing I was going to ask, was whether the $100,000 pretty much put to bed the gamble that you took last year. What does it feel like right now to be on top of the world, to have done what you did today, and to know that those handful of races last year have all led to this?
It means the world, to be honest with you. I worked with Chris Gabehart for 3 races last year. We ran extremely well, and I started working with Eric Phillips at Homestead, and we have been gaining on it every time that I've strapped in this race car. And without these 2 crew chiefs, without these teams, without Joe Gibbs Racing, and the equipment that they give you to go out there, that risk wouldn't have came true. One thing we all have to realize is, yes, the drivers, we have to be mentally tough enough. And that I really want to stress enough, or tell you guys that when you're sitting in that race car, it's 130, 140 degrees, or whatever it may be, and you don't see the big picture. All you see is what's out in front of that windshield. You have to be mentally tough enough to know that, hey, I need to get a good restart. I need to put myself in this position. And then those guys around me are going to give me everything I need to do what I need to do. And ultimately, that's what I feel I have here at Joe Gibbs Racing. Eric's a great coach. He's a great crew chief. How many drivers have you worked with? A lot. So this guy clearly knows what he's doing, and he works hard. And I really hope that everybody sees and gives him the credit that he deserves. And it's really, really great to work with a guy like Eric.
We'll go to Dominic, and then Matt, and then Kenny.
Dominic Odegon with TheRacingExperts.com and ESPN Albuquerque. Ryan, is it possible to say where this win ranks in comparison to all of your accomplishments cross racing, your championship in 13, your win last year? Where does this rank among all that?
Well, it's Bristol. It's the last great Coliseum. It's one of those tracks when you grow up as a short track racer, you want to win at. Last year, going to Iowa, I was thinking, if I had a shot to win, it was going to be New Hampshire, and ultimately we won in Iowa. And then we came here today. We unloaded for practice. I was really happy with the race car. We didn't qualify where I thought we would, but I knew we had a good race car, and slowly track position, patience, like Eric said. We got where we needed to be. The caution fell when we needed it to happen, and then we had the restart we needed, and Eric made the right adjustments there to get us out front. So as far as this win ranking, I got a UTV, I got a sword, and a really cool trophy. So I'm going to say it's pretty cool.
We'll go to Matt, and then Kenny, and then Bob.
Matt Weaver, Auto Week. I think you've kind of answered this just a second ago, but just when you look back at your journey, the modified stuff, then your 1 year of Xfinity, now what you're doing now, what is the balance that you put towards focusing on what's in front of you right now, but also trying to establish a timeline for where you would like to be 2-3 years down the road? And what is that timeline for you when you look at that?
Well, as Eric knows, a little unorganized when it comes to some things, but I take every week, every race as its own race, and it's a chance to build a future for myself. So where I'm going to be in October or after this season, I don't have a clue. But all I know is I'm not going to be the one that prevents me from going any further. I'm not going to be the excuse that when at the end of the season I say, man, if I won this race or if I did this different, I'm not going to look back and say that. I'm going to do everything I can to win and make sure that I'm not the weak link.
We'll go to Kenny.
Kenny Bruce with KennyBruce.net. Ryan, you mentioned that the money's obviously going to help pay off the debt you acquired last year. Okay, you're not running full time. Are you going to eventually go back into debt? I mean, is this going to be a cycle, or
no?
How's that going to work?
I don't advise many people to do what I did. Let's just put it that way. But when I sat down, when I raced against these guys, I saw these cars, and I consider myself somebody who understands kind of how a race car works, not to the depth of what Eric understands, but I understand the simple things that when I go to race my modified, I'm very well capable of giving myself a winning race car. So when I see their cars go around the track and I see how hard they work and the program they put together, I said, man, I need help with the people, and luckily I had enough help. And it got down to the time where I needed a little bit more, and ultimately, I had essentially it was a very close friend of mine and a racing owner of mine that came in, stepped in, and let me borrow the money from them. And I've been slowly paying them back, and it's going to feel good to be debt-free because it doesn't feel good. It's like having a mortgage over your head that you don't have a mortgage, you know what I mean? You did those 2 races, they're done. So essentially, it's gratifying to know that when I leave here, that when I get, essentially get paid, I am going to be debt-free. I am going to have the normal worries that everybody else has, which is a mortgage, car payments, insurance, typical things like that. And you know what I also enjoy, and what's pretty cool to think about is, yes, I may not be going to Richmond, but I'm going to stay for the debrief on Monday, do everything, all my obligations, and when I fly home Monday night or Tuesday morning, I'm going to go to work just like everybody else. I'm going to go work on race cars, which is a dream come true, but I'm going to get my hands dirty. I'm not going to be sitting around. And that's one thing. I keep on hitting on all these different things. But my father has been a huge inspiration to me. He's a hard worker. Without him, without my parents, none of this would be possible. I wouldn't have the work ethic that I have today. So, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay, so and you answered. I was going to ask you. I remember, I want to say after the Iowa win, that was one thing you made clear was as soon as you left there, you were driving back home and going back to work immediately the next day because you needed that to continue on. And I'm assuming now none of that's changed.
No, I'm still racing modifieds. I'm still winning. This is win number 3 for me for the year. Obviously, it's at a bigger scale, but I think I've done 7 races or 8 races so far, and I've won 3 of them. So maybe it's 10 races. I keep forgetting here and there, but we've won 3 so far this year.
We're going to go to Bob, Tim, and then Caleb.
Bob Pockris, ESPN. Not trying to be overly dramatic, but let's say you don't win this race. Let's say you don't make the money to pay people back. What do you do? Like, were you going to have to stop racing? Would you have had to sell a car that you like? What was
Stop
the
being negative
contingency
here,
plan?
Bob, okay? Let's think about the positives. I don't know. To be honest with you, I probably would have gotten to that point before the year's out. I would have paid them back through racing, through my racing with the Xfinity series. So I wasn't too worried. But that wasn't a thought last year when I stepped into this car. That wasn't a thought was, man, how am I going to pay X amount of dollars back? My only thought was, how am I going to win this race? And it worked out.
We're going to go to Tim here in the middle. Raise your hand, Tim.
Tim Southers, motorsport.com. Ryan, you've raced here in the modified several times. I know it's a totally different car. It's like apples to oranges, but experience on the racetrack, how beneficial was it to participate in those races in the NASCAR Home Track program and be ready for the next step up?
Well, I would say racing at your local track, racing your touring series, and coming to a place like this, it helped. I would say this was extremely similar to how the modified races play out, with it being bottom is the way around. Except the modifieds, I would say you're on the near edge of wrecking every lap when it comes to being loose. So I had seat time before I came here. I would say that helped quite a bit, but I would say racing as a whole, racing at my local short track, racing on the tour, all that, racing 70, 80 times a year, that's all led me up to where I am now.
We'll go to Caleb, and then we're going to go back up to the press box.
Caleb Whistler, kickingthetires.net. Do you consider yourself a poster child for those talented drivers who are kind of stuck in that underfunded equipment and being proof that you can go out there and do well in?
They just wrecked. Yeah, sorry. To be honest with you, if people want to label me that, that's fine, but I'm not going to label myself as that. I like to make my own way through, I guess, in life, and would I advise somebody to do what I did? I think Bob would agree probably not to. But it was the only way I was going to get a chance. You know what I mean? And I wanted that chance, and it all worked out. I guess if you want it bad enough, you'll find a way.
All right, we're going to head back upstairs to the press box.
Eric, it's Lisa, and I have questions for both of you. First of all, you've worked with a lot of young drivers, and it's not usual that you get a 27-year-old. What does he bring to the ride that a lot of the development drivers do not?
He brings good and bad. His understanding of the race car is far superior to most of the young kids today. I mean, you compare him to Bell, who I worked with a lot last year. Christopher just gets in and drives. Ryan's the opposite. He wants to tell me what left rear spring to run, and it's always too big, but I end up winning on that most of the time. But his knowledge of the race car, understanding, he wants to know. He was in there the other day trying to get my engineers to show him how to run sim, which I don't think is a good idea either. But he just understands the race cars a lot more. I've worked with a lot of guys. I think Kyle's a lot that way. He understands the cars. A lot of these young kids didn't grow up working on cars like I did, so they don't understand that. They drive, they do the simulators. They're all talented. They just got there a different way. Where I grew up, and I think Ryan grew up, is you learned how to work on the race car, then you drove it, and that's the biggest difference.
And Ryan, I saw you go up to Kevin Harvick during practice at Fontana. And I'm assuming that you were thanking him for standing up for the short track guys. And I got to think that, you were talking about getting this opportunity, and without this opportunity, my guess is you'd probably still be up in Connecticut.
I'd be racing modifieds, absolutely. He also, I just want to say, sponsored a contingency program for Stafford Motor Speedway, which adds another $250 to their winning, or to their purse. That's also a reason I wanted to thank him. That's a big deal. But, yeah, guys like that, Kyle Busch races short tracks. That brings attention to it. Kevin Harvick, he goes and races. I think, hopefully he is race my modified at one point in time this year, which would be pretty cool. Whether it happens or not, I don't know, but I'm going to play crew chief. So maybe I can get Eric up there and I can show him how much left rear spring I can take out. But, you know, anytime you have guys like Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, you know, guys that came from the grassroots, bring attention to it. It helps the guys like us that kind of see that light at the end of the tunnel. So it was a big deal to me. It meant a lot.
We're going to come over here to the far left side of the room.
Mike Massey with FrontStretch.com. Back to the race, with about 20 laps to go there, you know, Brandon Jones was kind of checked out. Were you driving the wheels off of it, trying to get back to him and win the race, or were you content with, you know, you were in that $100,000 spot right there?
No, to be honest with you, and Eric can probably say this, when they said 10 to go, I'm like, 10 to go till when? It went by so quick. I thought there was probably, you know, 60 or so to go. I didn't think it was that quick, but no, I wasn't thinking about the $100,000. I knew we were going to be in good shape, but you know, I tell everybody this, and I mean it. I come to win races. I don't come to finish second. Yeah, winning $100,000 was a big deal to me, but winning that UTV, winning that sword, being able to say that I won at Bristol in a modified and an Xfinity car, that's a big deal to me. So that would mean just as much.
Any additional questions for Eric and Ryan? All right, gentlemen, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.